So
I
good.
might have seen it. I might
Yeah.
have seen it. It is kind of depressing how much of your life is seemingly immutable, man. Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for people to understand. I think a degree of empathy is like understanding people. But like, if I see somebody who who I saw recently, I saw in Latvia. I saw a guy that was he had like a he had dwarfism, and I think he was like maybe like 4 feet tall, or I think it was like 3 feet tall or something.
How many centimeters?
I'm pretty sure I don't even know what
I'll
is
look
that in
it up.
centimeters. I have no idea. I think in terms of feet and in
Okay,
inches.
4 feet. You said
Yeah, yeah, 4 feet. Then it's like
that's 120 centimeters.
then it's like I mean, to say that that guy doesn't live an objectively difficult life is insane, and that life is based on immutable characteristics that he was given at birth. That doesn't mean that he can find happiness or he can live a good life, but it's like to pretend like that guy isn't struggling is insane. You know what I mean?
That's a good
and,
point.
and that guy has serious limitations on what he can accomplish. And I know there was a guy named there's a guy named Vern Troyer who committed suicide. He was a person who had dwarfism who committed suicide about 4 or 5 years ago. There's also a guy named Oreo Man who committed suicide. It's a YouTube guy.
Mm.
There's also a guy named there's a bunch of guys who are on YouTube, who are vloggers, who are doomer vloggers, who've kind of killed themselves and things like that. It is like an epidemic, like young men, and it kind of goes back to Jordan Peterson, where I saw that Jordan Peterson video where he was at Liberty University, and this guy like cried, like this guy like ran up to the stage and sort of just like collapsed and started crying.
Yeah.
I think there is a sort of doomer, like millennial and zoomer doomer sort of mindset where people feel hopeless, and Jordan Peterson is almost like an antidote to hopelessness and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Like
and stuff.
80% of suicides for 18 to 24 are men.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that, actually.
Yeah, you don't hear about that. I remember.
Like 80, 80.
Yeah, I know. It is kind of depressing because you don't hear about men committing suicide. It's always like women and young girls and stuff. Not to say that isn't an issue. I'm not like into like the sexism stuff. Like I care about women and men equally.
Sure.
So if a woman commits suicide, I'm sad about that. There's actually Zack Snyder on Joe Rogan, who I think I told you about. His daughter committed suicide. His daughter was like 18 years old and drug overdosed herself, and that's really sad as well. That's tragic. I don't want anyone to do that. But and also people commit suicide for all sorts of different reasons and stuff. But I think mental health is a serious issue. But it isn't like a one size fits all. We're all in our different like lanes and avenues, and like Vern Troyer commits suicide for one reason, and Zack Snyder's daughter does it for another reason, and they all have some kind of mental kind of angst and issue. A lot of them are kind of maybe doomer for different reasons. So, for example, people that are so-called inkwells or incels, they're men who can't get a girlfriend, they can't get a wife.
Yeah.
And they do it for either they're not making enough money, they're too short, they're too ugly, they don't have the confidence, they're overweight, something like that.
Too anxious,
too anxiety. I know a guy named Otto who I talked to, who he's really he's like super into what they call surgery maxing, where they get like nose jobs, plastic surgeries
for men.
Yeah, for men.
Mm-hmm.
They try to improve their physical appearance to make them more desirable for women. And he's probably spent like lots of money going to like Turkey, getting hair transplants in Turkey. He went to Korea, got some plastic surgery there, trying to improve his physical appearance, because he'd always get rejected by women and he wouldn't get any likes on Tinder. Women would always reject him and stuff like that. He had like low confidence and stuff.
Damn, people are not well these days.
Yeah, it's kind of a
we're doing something wrong,
Yeah.
I read a quote the other day, like we're people with happy pictures but like sad lives. A generation of happy pictures and sad realities.
Pretty much. And I have a friend called Face who shout out to Face. He's popular on YouTube. He's a friend of mine from the UK, and he always talks about what he calls rope feel, which is pretty much roping. It pretty much means suicide. It's just like strangling yourself. It's called roping. And rope feel is pretty much like you have certain things that happen which kind of fuels your desire to commit suicide. So he kind of talks about just like not being able to make enough money, or just going outside and just getting rejected all the time. Or he lives in, I don't want to dox him, but he lives in the UK, somewhere in the UK, and he always tells me about rope fuel, and he's gonna rope himself at some point, and he tells me how he's gonna rope himself, like, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like depressed stuff. And I also have a friend named Duke from the UK. He works as a janitor. He's a janitor in the UK. He works at an elementary school. He just like cleans toilets for a living. He's like 24 years old, and he talks about like how depressing his life. He just works as a janitor, and then he plays League of Legends. He goes home and plays League of Legends, and then he does like VCs on Discord and stuff. And he talks about how hard it is to be a man, and how women are like, he's a bit like, he's kind of like very black pilled. He's a bit like sexist, and I'm not really into that. But he talks about like, I think I shared it on my Instagram. Like he always like go on rants about like he can't get a promotion. He just cleans shit all day. He just flushes toilets. And he just like cleans tampons and flushes toilets and like wipes floors all day. And he gets paid minimum wage. Like he's like bare minimum wage. And
Let me guess, it's nothing is his fault.
Yeah, nothing is his fault pretty much. And he's like he's actually like an Asian guy, and they talk about just like he's like a total like virgin incel, like can't get a date. The only possibility is called escort maxing, where you save enough money to get like a prostitute or something, and that's how you like. That's the only hope.
The only
much.
sex.
Yeah, the only sex you can get is with prostitutes. And my other friend, Rabbi, he's like a Jewish guy, lives in California, works for Uber. He got fired from Uber. Long story, but he's an escort maxer where he works for Uber, and he just saves money on escorts, and he just like.
That's all he does.
That's all he does. All he does is money. He lives in a really cheap apartment and just spends on escorts all day, pretty much.
So he's like a sex addict, actually.
Yeah, pretty much a sex addict, and he's obsessed with escorts. Like he would always have his main escort would be a girl from Syria, who migrated to the U.S., who's a pharmacy student who does some escorting on the side, but she'd go to pharmacy school, and then I think UC Berkeley, and then she'd escort on the side, and then he would pay her like maybe like pretty expensive, like maybe like $1,000 a sesh.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. But he makes good money though through Uber. He does like a lot of Uber drives and stuff.
Dude, that's like a month's salary.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I know. But he's a unique situation. He's obsessed with escorts, and the Syrian girl, her dad like lives in Syria, has no idea what she's doing for a living. No idea her daughter's an escort. Yeah,
wow,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, trying to control virginity, so it's gonna be something difficult.
It is kind of crazy, man. But yeah, I got all these crazy stories about like all these people in that VC. We talk to each other every Friday, talking about all sorts of crazy stuff, all sorts of crazy characters, man. Like
sounds kind of nice, like hearing something crazy for once. Like, so it must be refreshing. Is my point with these other people that are actually have something erratic.
They're actually erratic. They're actually kind of interesting,
Yeah.
And I think an extreme black pillar would just say everything is just completely meaningless. There's actually a guy named Hamoudi on YouTube. He's like this, like I think he's like a Syrian guy. He lived in Germany. He was like a black pill YouTuber, and he kind of he works at a kebab shop, and just like just really like kind of like overweight, like short, unattractive guy, can't get dates. Works at a kebab shop, doesn't make much money. He would just drive around Germany and just like start screaming, he literally became the Joker, quite like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, or even actually probably Heath Ledger's Joker, where he could put his like head outside the window and start screaming, where he had no inhibitions, because he was so blackballed that he thought everything was meaningless and there was like no purpose to anything, so he would just do everything.
I can almost understand that.
Yeah, and he would just like he would just be like screaming and riding around, because I'm very inhibited. I'm a shy person. I'm very like but he had like no inhibition. Yeah, shout out to Hamoudi from YouTube. But yeah, he was, and there's also another guy in my VC who's a medical student from Amsterdam who was also very black pilled, and he actually died recently. He was in the news. He used to be on the VCs that I was on, and he did a very horrible thing, which I don't condone, which is like a mass shooting, which I do not condone that. I'm against all that. But yeah, he did a horrible thing at his med school where he like murdered people in Amsterdam, and he was very black-pilled. Um, he was like in medical school for like a long time because he would keep like failing and just like repeating colloquiums, and then he got kicked out like on his final year of med school
Why?
because he had like mental health issues,
Oh.
and he did this thing where he tortured a cat like in his backyard. He saw a stray cat, and then he kind of did something weird to the cat, and his neighbor took a picture of him doing that to the cat, sent it to the police, and the police contacted his medical school and said, "Oh, this guy's like has mental health problems and stuff." And then he went to like the dean of his school, and then he was pretty much kicked out of medical school. He was and he was like on his final year and stuff, and then he kind of broke. And then he kind of like took a gun to his medical school and just like shot like his teacher and some people.
Where was it?
It was in Amsterdam. I think it was in Amsterdam.
Oh, wow.
It's just it's in the news, but it kind of got like suppressed, and then, I don't know. It didn't get that much attention. He kind of was on he was on my VC, and he was also on some 4chan. He talked about his neighbor who ratted him out. His neighbor, he called his neighbor a roasty, a coal burner roasty, which is when you're in the far right like webs of the internet, it's a very dark place. But pretty much a coal burner is like a white woman who kind of is very progressive and has like a boyfriend who's like from Africa, and they call them coal burners. And she had like a mixed race daughter, like a half white, half black daughter. And even though he was Arab, like he was pretty racist. So
He was?
yeah.
Wow.
So he would call her like a coal burner, like a roasty, and stuff like that. And he actually killed his neighbor. He actually, on that day where he killed himself, he went to his neighbor's house, like shot his neighbor and
Wow.
my daughter, and then went to his medical school and
Oh
shot
my
and shot
God.
his professor. And then I was talking about it on VC, and I know people who like knew him. Like, what was he like, dude? Because I forgot what he was, and he actually had like a name. His name was, I'm not gonna say what his name was, but he was on the VCs, and he had like a weird ideology. Like he was he was in medical school, and he was very like he didn't like women. He was pretty like, and he had this beliefs. He wanted to go to medical school because he wanted to create artificial wombs, because he wanted to make women like useless, because he believed women were only useful for procreating. If he can figure out a way to create artificial wombs, it would make women useless for society. So he went to medical school to create
That's
these
so
things.
sick.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy. There's actually a guy named Elliot Rogers. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard of him.
No.
He's a guy in California who he grew up in California, and he was like this short, like he called him like a Hapa, which is like half Chinese, half white. And his mom dated George Lucas, who was in Star Wars. Big story. Anyways, Elliot Rogers, he actually did this very controversial, like he did like a mass shooting in California, and he wrote like a manuscript called Manifesto, essentially.
Yeah.
It's called like my tragic life or something. I forgot the exact wording of it. And he had very like crazy views about being like a millennial in California, and his whole ideology was very focused on rejection. Society rejects me, women reject me. I can't, I can't study, types of thing. And a lot of it was just kind of like a lot of like maybe like complaining about society. Same with a guy named Alec Benassian, who's like a Toronto guy who did a similar thing. He was like these men that are just struggling with life and society, and it is one of those things where I think it's getting worse and worse. And a lot of these people reject religion, and they're very black pill and stuff. And I would recommend reading his book because it's so crazy. It's like a diary of his life. And it would say 0 to 5 years old, 5 to 10. Like he would go through his entire life, and he would also do these vlogs.
And just highlight all the rejections he got.
All the rejections and his issues with his family, his mom, his dad. He had a brother who like so-called mogged him, which means like his brother was like super tall and attractive, but he was like kind of unattractive and short. And his brother would get like dates and bring girls over, and he would like not and stuff. And he would.
That's always sad when you compare yourself.
When you compare yourself, he also talks about his mom, how like he had a bad relationship. Comparison is a big issue, and he talks about how his mom like he had a bad experiences with his mom, and also his dad was also like he would get mugged by his dad as well. His dad would mog him, his brother would mog him. Mog? M-O-G-G.
Oh.
Mog just means that you kind of outshine somebody that's in your vicinity.
So not mug with a knife.
No, not mugged, mogged. So pretty much like
Outshine.
mog, yeah. So pretty
Hmm.
much height mogging or jaw mogging or looks mogging. It's all just like outshining somebody that's sort of near you.
Sure.
And and there's a bunch of memes on like Reddit and 4chan about like height mogs. It's funny like you see like this little guy and there's a big guy right next to him. And it's so funny seeing his memes, man. Like it's just so goofy. But it is like one of those things, man. It's like a lot of guys are kind of like struggling with that. And it is a, I don't know. I feel like it's like a silent epidemic where nobody talks about like just like how many people are like that. But I honestly think it's like a ton of people that are like that. Even like going around in Latvia, man, you meet like a lot of hopeless guys like walking around.
I hope you enjoyed that clip of the HH podcast. If you want to see another clip, click here down to your left. And if you want to see the whole unedited episode, click down here to your right. And last but not least, if you want to subscribe, you can do so here in the middle. Thank you.